On a prominent position along the North Hampshire Downs in southern England exists a little-known prehistoric site of archaeological intrigue and importance. The isolated site is situated 220 metres above sea level, with commanding views north, east and west, and is within a rich arable chalkland area interspersed by woodland. The landscape has been transformed by farming since prehistory, but the site, which is now known as Ladle Hill, has prehistoric archaeological features that have survived the ages. The most ancient of which is the Wayfarer's Walk trackway, which runs east-west through Ladle Hill, and prehistoric people would have used the route to navigate the landscape by following the high ridges. This can still be walked and stretches from Walbury Hill in Berkshire to Emsworth near Portsmouth in Hampshire. During the early Bronze Age, the location was chosen as a burial site, and disc, bowl, bell and saucer barrows were constructed in pairs at different points next to the trackway. These burial mounds could have been seen from the valley to the north and approaching from the south, and would also have acted as territorial boundary markers for those passing through. Defining the local territory seems to have become a concern during the late Bronze Age, as two long linear boundaries were dug through the site. Consisting of a bank and ditch 8 metres wide, one was 1,097 metres long, following the ridge of the hill southwest, and the other to the east, running north-south for 30 metres. Two contemporary sub-rectangular shaped ditch and bank enclosures were also constructed, and are believed to have been used with the linear boundaries for large-scale livestock management. Here calving, lambing, castration, culling and the distribution of livestock would have taken place. The most prominent features on Ladle Hill are, however, the irregular pattern of earthworks, enclosing an area of 3.3 hectares. These consist of intersected banks and ditches, which when dug were careful to miss and incorporate the Bronze Age barrows, and also utilise part of a linear boundary. The earliest known historical reference is from an Anglo-Saxon charter of 943, giving the name of Mears Beirig, meaning Camp of the Pond. The name may refer to a dew pond which is next to the earthworks, but this is of an unknown date, and there are others within the vicinity. Dr. Williams Freeman was the first academic to interpret them in 1915 as a partly destroyed Iron Age hill fort, where the ramparts had been backfilled into the ditches, creating causeways. When Stuart Piggott studied the earthworks in 1930, he interpreted them as the remains of a Neolithic causewayed enclosure, but in 1931 revised his interpretation after examining aerial photographs taken by Osbert Crawford. Piggott reinterpreted the site of Ladle Hill as having the remains of an early Iron Age hill fort that was unfinished. This was an important discovery that provided archaeologists with a previously unconfirmed sequence to hill fort construction. Piggott cut a section trench through the earthworks to prove his theory, and this gave archaeologists an understanding of how these monuments were built. Construction at Ladle Hill started by cutting ditch markers from the pre-existing linear boundary to create the enclosed circuit. Teams of diggers started at different sections, removing topsoil and depositing it 20 metres inside the enclosure. Two large gaps were left in the east and west of the circuit for entranceways. Large blocks of chalk were then cut out of the ground to be used for the base of the banks. Here, for some reason, the work stopped, with causeways left in the circuit and the topsoil remaining inside the enclosure, which should have been moved to create the bank or a possible palisaded wall. The intended function of the earthworks has been interpreted as defensive, and the term hill fort has therefore been given. Archaeological evidence from contemporary and comparable sites have shown that a variety of activity took place that does not support a wholly military function, and the term hill fort is therefore problematic. Some sites were only occupied seasonally, others having well planned out streets with roundhouses, huts and shrines. Some have evidence of wood, metal or ceramic production with regional or long distance trade. All excavated sites, however, have in common evidence of the mass storing and distribution of crops and animals. It may never be known why the enclosure at Ladle Hill was never finished. Maybe hostile events overtook the builders, or as Piggott suggested, they decided on the better and more defendable location of Beacon Hill, 2 kilometres to the west, where a large and permanently occupied hill fort was constructed. It is probable that a local farming community during the early Iron Age, at a time when hillfort monuments were becoming popular and widespread throughout the landscape, chose Ladle Hill for its topographical and territorial position along an existing trade route. More information and evidence regarding its constructors, function and reasons for not being completed can only be obtained by further archaeological investigations. Thank you for watching this video by Simple Archaeology. Please click like if you enjoyed the video and subscribe for future archaeological topics.